Locutors, a Trek. On screen.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
And welcome to Locutors of Trek, Class L Probe, Photons and Forcefields.
Let's launch a probe into it.
We should destroy the probe. Phasers are armed and ready.
I don't think we're going to destroy the probes tonight, actually. I think we're going to just do what Picard said, and we're going to launch a few probes here. 3 probes, in fact. Because, this is the Class L probe, where we do deep dives on the topics we discuss, or argue about, I should say, on Debate 9. Mm-hmm. We are your hosts, plain simple Tailors, a.k.a. Davan, and with us is almost another host, really, for this segment. With us, as always, on the Class L probe is Adam Woodward, Enterprise at 8, and other Live Long podcast things. The banner we now fall under, so we're all one big family now.
I love it.
We've been absorbed. We've been assimilated.
That's right.
It's imperial.
I don't want to be emissilated, but it happened anyway.
Right. When was your last Debate 9, actually?
Was it you?
How long ago?
It was me. His cousin Dave was on that one.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, gotcha.
And he won. Whoops, I spoiled that one. We'll go watch it anyway.
Okay.
Everybody. It's still good fun. I spoil things all the time by accident. Does anyone want to go first with their probe?
I'm good.
You're good to go?
When do you guys go?
All right, let's start with... Well, we'll start with... who's this one now? That's Dave's. Let's go with yours, Adam.
Sure. Are you bringing it up, or?
Yeah, let's launch a probe.
I love it.
Does the Federation's rehabilitative model make them soft on crime? That's what we are going to discuss here. Why don't you start us off, Adam?
All right. This is something that I find particularly interesting. And I personally love the idea of the rehabilitative model in general. I think that, that's what we should be strived to be doing. If you punish somebody for a wrongdoing against society or whatever it might be. And it's not working in today's world. Granted, I don't think we're a model for that happening. However, I looked at this question, Davan, and I thought, do we have a reason why it's not working under the Federation? And I was trying to think of everything, and I don't believe it. We have a good example of a rehabilitative model not working, and even when you're thinking of next gen, and I think that penal colony, they needed those soldiers to fight a war. I can't remember the name of the episode. It was a fantastic episode. Love it. Do you remember this? They had a soldier class that they trained to be.
Oh yes.
Super soldiers, essentially, and when they brought them back into society,
sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't assimilate back and committed crimes, and they were then cast aside, which maybe it doesn't fall directly into this, but I thought it was a wonderful example of casting something aside without trying to rehab them back into society, which was just wrong. So in that case, the society did it, or the government did the action rather than the people. So I've got to believe that there's got to be a better way than just punishment for criminals. There's got to be a way to get people back into society as decent contributing members. Mm-hmm. And the Federation, I don't have a lot of examples, but I believe in my mind that there's a higher understanding of how to work with people to get them back in.
Yeah, I mean, even if it takes like technology or something like that, like sometimes it takes counselors, sometimes it takes technologies we've seen in Star Trek, which, that could be medications as well, I guess. Um,
But-
yeah, I mean, this one could be a short one because I think you're right. I think from what we see, the Federation's rehabilitative model seems to work pretty well.
Well, even soft on crime. I mean, the fact is they're removed from wherever when they do something bad. I mean, we never really get a good understanding of how they do things. They could be gone for years and years and years. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing's true is we've never really seen, I don't think, a Federation.
I think we saw Tom
What would
Paris
you-
in one, right?
Yeah, no, but that's like, I would say they're like minimal security prison type of deal. I don't think we've ever seen a Federation's like maximum security prison.
I think the closest we ever see to it is Eddington when Cisco retrieves him.
Yeah,
don't
and he's
know
just
whether
in a
that-
cell. Like,
Well, and right for me, so for a little while, a few years ago, I came in and out of one of the prisons in our city. And one of the things about them is that they're extremely controlled spaces. So I always wondered with Eddington whether that's not the place where you go to have a meeting with an offender rather than the place that he lives 24/7, you know? Because it seemed like a pretty tiny, sparse brig-like environment. Because
yeah, he said he only got out to go to counseling sessions and then got put back in. So he didn't get to walk the gardens like Tom Paris, you know.
Yeah, and maybe that was his, version of basically solitary confinement, right? But all of these questions, I think, do turn on. I mean, the assumption in the question itself, right? Does a rehabilitative model make somebody soft on crime, and is that something we shouldn't want? Because I think, as opposed to hi Sam, as
Yes,
opposed
hey,
to
Sam.
our model of
Hey, Murphy.
Hey, World Mind. As opposed to, for instance, what Adam made is a good point about our systems, our corrective systems, which are as often systems of learned recidivism or systems essentially of training, as much as they are places for rehabilitation because of the kinds of deficiencies, both in funding and staffing and all sorts of stuff in our systems, right? Not necessarily because of lack of people trying inside it necessarily, although I'm sure there's some of that too. But it looks like to me that the Federation would have had to glean some of those lessons, for instancing, like looking at Vulcan ways of resolving conflict or criminal actions. And I think they prefer what you'd call a soft on crime approach from a 21st century perspective as a matter of course. Absolutely, right? Like they can see and they know that there are Rurapenthes and Cardassian prisons out there that are still doing that stuff just happily. And I think the Federation, definitely prefers a different route.
Yeah, like they were still trying to rehabilitate.
But even
they just weren't letting him do anything in the meantime.
I'm thinking about this is the rehabilitation thing. Do you change people's again? This is just when you're changing somebody through technology or through behavioral modifications, then you're changing the person as well. So that's interesting. So do you allow the person to stay back in prison forever because you don't want to change them, but at the same time, there's necessity to change. I mean, it really goes to the punishment and the crime. Like what fits?
Well, all right. So let me throw this out there then, just to complicate matters further. In a dialogue of Plato, the Crito, which is when Socrates has already been imprisoned by the Athenian government, they ask this series of questions about.
Is this before or after he says, "Build a statue of me or kill me"?
Oh no, this is after, because that would be in the apology, precisely, right? And he literally says, he doesn't say build a statue, he says, give me a pension, 3 square meals a day.
Honor me, essentially. Honor me or kill me.
So in this one, they're talking about whether it's right to punish people, right? And the argument that Socrates makes is that it's correct to use punishment of some sort, whether it's being removed from society or whether it's having to undergo a course of rehabilitation or whether it's some sort of hideous Cardassian type of thing, is valid if it has an actual corrective purpose that not only benefits the society by getting you to like stop that, but benefits the person by allowing them to reorient themselves toward the pursuit of the good. So, I mean, I think that would be a decent standard by which to judge the Federation, right? And to me, Ro Laren is somebody that sticks out as someone who is not changed by the system, but may well have had her goals ennobled by the system in that sense, right? Like, because she goes and does the exact same thing and rejoins the Maquis eventually.
But I argued in the Debate 9 that Tom Paris wasn't changed by the system either.
And that may also be true.
Time on Voyager changed Tom Paris.
Yeah, but he was pulled out before his time was done too.
Oh yeah, true. His
didn't have time to work.
rehabilitation wasn't complete.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Jody makes the point that the Federation have always been soft on crime. Just look at the original series. Now there is some examples in the original series of them not paying very close attention to their criminals. That's for sure. But you know, that was the Wild West days, Jody.
It was the wild, and then they made up for it with the Mirror Universe and the Agony booth.
right.
Step out of line, will you?
Yeah.
Into the booth.
Well, perhaps these things. Well, that's a good question Sam makes. The types of crime on which the Federation might be soft.
Well,
again,
and that's where you see they obviously took what Eddington did very seriously. Eddington
Right.
got put in a cage.
And that may mean
You'd think, which is interesting, because Eddington betrayed the Federation for the Maquis. Tom Paris betrayed the Federation for the Maquis. Tom Paris gets to hang out in a garden. Eddington, I mean, I guess he was the leader, Eddington, and he sort of directly betrayed Starfleet, but I guess sort of.
And he may be in a Starfleet prison. He may not be in a Federation prison per se, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Because he's awaiting court martial too. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I agree with was it Justin who said they've always been soft on crime? Yeah, I think that's been
Jody,
Jody. If they're looking at the causes and social determinants of criminal behavior, I think they're always going to err on side of mercy for the person in looking to eliminate the criminal behavior.
See,
that's how you get your Harry Mudd still wandering around, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, when you look at like Picard's like the philosopher king of captains, right?
Sure.
And he, I often wonder, like that character in itself, or the way he thinks is like, so and he would prefer the rehab model. Let's face that, right?
For sure.
But would he always though? Like, and that's
would
where
Picard always?
Yeah.
He does even.
I
with
think so.
Borg in a
I
certain
think so.
sense.
Would Kirk always? No.
Oh no. Well, Kirk didn't. He was.
It's like you're banished to a planet that's probably going to die and kill you all.
Cowboy
After that, I will kill you.
That's right.
With my spaceship, right? Yeah, Kirk is
It had
do that.
so
stuff.
much life. This is Sunday Alpha 5.
So I think we are agreed that the Federation's rehabilitative model definitely makes them soft on crime, and that's how they want it. Should we consider TOS canon?
I think we should, Sam. It was just the Wild West days. You just got to look at it that way. Like they still had their shit together better than in the NX era, the NX01 era.
Yes, they did.
I mean,
That is
They
true.
learned some stuff along the way. I agree.
I mean, the TOS era had a lot more lunatics running around, but that makes more sense because Archer and them were out there alone basically. And by the time Kirk and them are running around, Earth has sent a lot of like wackos out into space.
And also look at the time, a reflection of just society and political being of that time was craziness compared to the early 90s, or early 2000s, I think, which were a little settled down a little bit.
Well, and I think you're absolutely right. Like you're looking at the difference between a potentially revolutionary time and then something determined by neoliberal imperatives, right? And those are very different times indeed.
Yeah. And I think they're trying to push the limit to what they actually could do with TV back then, too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have a question for you guys.
Yes, sir.
How do we know you two don't got butt bugs?
I take it you guys didn't see the most recent Lower Decks episode.
I can't.
Was that episode 5? I did watch that.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
good.
like the conspiracy alien bugs that were actually more like mouth bugs, but in
Oh
Lower
no,
Decks,
I
they're
have
the
not
butt
seen
bugs.
this one yet. It must be episode
Oh,
6.
oh, this one's an amazing episode, my favorite one. There's so much good stuff here. I guess I should stop using these clips then, because I'm gonna use one more. So I'm gonna spoil you with one more
For
clip
shame.
at least.
I got
Yeah.
caught up yesterday, I thought, on Lower Decks this season, so I was quite enjoying the whole thing.
Oh yeah, it's pretty great. All right, so do we have anything else to say on this one? We definitely seem to be agreed that it seems to work for them. I mean, what their success rate is on actual rehabilitation.
Yeah,
never
and
really
then there's the whole other matter. Is like when you start, persecuting somebody from another planet or somebody not in the Federation for some pirating or something like that. How do they handle them? I'd like to know more.
Yeah, that's a
How
really
many-
good question.
Yeah.
Because there certainly seems to be a lot of internet. Technically, Deep Space Nine is out in the middle of like international waters as space goes, right? Because the Federation does not extend all the way to Bajor or even all the way to Temecula or wherever it's called, right?
Yep. Anyway, yep.
Yeah. Oh.
Sure. Love to come in.
All right, Adam's coming in on Thursday. There you have it. For the Lower Decks reviews. Everyone check those out. The Lower Decks is awesome. Yeah. So I guess I would like to see or like have a number or an idea on how many people actually just stay in these Federation facilities because they can't be rehabilitated.
Well, and then it's just a matter of how they treat them. Is it just a nice like Paris, get to walk the gardens every day, or is it a rurapente, where you're going to go outside and freeze to death?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and I mean, I wonder if there wouldn't be things like diversionary stuff for people that wanted to live a crazy life and say, "Fine, you want to go live a colony on a really hard world."
Oh my gosh,
colony,
Moriarty, put him in a little cube.
Yeah,
it's not right,
like a good.
Sorry,
go ahead. Well, I was going to say like a friendly version of what they do to Chief O'Brien in Hard Time, where they make him have 20 years in a horrible prison for his punishment. But you could have somebody have 20 years in 5 minutes of, good therapy and rehabilitation and peace.
Right. See, and this was why I wrote the question about the Federation, whether the Federation should adopt that Argrathi technology, right? Because I think if you want to get like fully soft, like flaccid on crime, then you want the Argrathi method with
a good way
values attached.
Yeah.
Right? Like literally just shove somebody through 20 years of therapy in 47 seconds or something and let them then come out the rest and live their life to the fullest because they've actually been rehabilitated. Right? Like
that almost seems a disservice to society to not do that if you can. For the individual and for the society. Like you can get a contributing member back into society in 5 minutes instead of 20 years or whatever.
Yeah. And then we can bring in the language of ISO cubes from Judge Dredd, which just makes this perfect. 5 years in the ISO cubes for you.
So I think, do we want to answer this question? Does the Federation's rehabilitative model make them soft on crime? Dave?
Gloriously so.
It does make them soft on, but in a good way?
Gloriously so, yes.
Okay, what do you say, Adam?
I think I don't really agree with the term soft on crime, but
that's just how it was worded in the debate.
Yeah, I think that I would agree. Yes, the answer is yes, but just
gloriously so.
Gloriously so.
Yeah, agreed. It's not punitive at all. Well, it is in the sense that if they could use the Argrathi technology, it would be even less punitive.
Sure. Yes.
But that's maybe they get there. Who knows? I mean, that was new to them in Deep Space Nine and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I agree with you guys. Gloriously so. All right. Let's launch another probe.
All right.
You or me, Dave?
We can do mine. That's fine. I like that one. It's a great question.
All right. Let's launch another probe. With the Voth. Oh, you go ahead.
Would the Voth have a legitimate claim to Earth territory? This we're referring to the Voth from season 3, episode 23 of Star Trek Voyager. Thank you very much, Davan. These
This one right there.
folks,
Yep. She's not one of the nicer Voth, that particular one.
That's true. Descended from Earth saurian creatures, most likely hadrosaurs, they say.
Hadrosaur, yeah.
Yeah, the honkiest of dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
bipedal, grasping hands.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I want to say about the Voth before we get into this question is they've been evolving as essentially, humanoids for close to like 60 million years, or they say 20 million years in the show, but I think that's just their recorded history they have left.
Yeah.
It's the history of when they left Earth.
No, because their history doesn't include any of that.
Right.
They want to believe that they're from the Delta Quadrant.
4 million years ago, yeah.
Yeah, they want to believe they're the first Delta Quadrant race, when really they're probably just the first Alpha Quadrant race, and that seems cool too. I don't know why they're so upset about that, but whatever. Doesn't fit their narrative. But anyway, so yeah, as Dave said, they left Earth at some point in our very distant past. So were they to return?
Well, I think so. I think the date would be at the very latest they left Earth 65 million years ago. Right?
You can assume maybe from a catastrophe, like fleeing some sort of global catastrophe, or else why would you leave with your entire species? And a global catastrophe did end the hadrosaur's existence.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that adds another little layer to it too. It's not like they just like kind of left and sold the house like Jody argued in the debate. They were probably fleeing something.
If I was gonna sort of drop this as like a preamble to this, I guess my thinking here is this has similar questions to the change of peoples on the face of the earth, right? That we've seen many, many times over centuries, right? But when we take it out and extend it to like 65 million years in science fiction, it takes on peculiarly like stark proportions, right? Like, does the Gulf of Time have any effect on the ancestral claim? And if they have a legitimate claim, if we could say that they did have in some sense, what kind of claim would that be? Like, what kind of presence would be appropriate for the Voth, either in the Sol system or on Earth?
So my feeling, honestly, is that if you don't even acknowledge your history from beyond, and if they left, they started a new life in the Delta Quadrant, they didn't even acknowledge that they were resistant to it when it was discussed.
That one particular.
Well, wasn't that one particular like the elder?
Yeah, she was one of the elders, but say they did. This question is almost like say they did. Say they returned and said,
"You ever see V?
This is our home."
Right?
You ever see
V? Yeah, fair enough.
Right, because I guess and imagine like maybe this is just some offshoot group of Voth who are like, well, if we know where we come from, to heck
like
with
that scientist. Like
let's go through it, right? Let's hit the wormhole and get there, or let's find some Borg transwarp thing, or they have transwarp anyway, don't they? Let's get there.
See, my belief though really is that sure you can show up, but is it coming from the standpoint? Hey, we know we have a history here. We'd like to know more about it. Can we come? Because there has to be a permission given. Or you're conquering.
Right. Okay. Right. Now, this is a great point. The manner of approach would determine a lot, right? If they're coming in guns blazing or just making demands.
We were here first type of thing.
Right. Right.
Before time. I mean,
before time.
Prove
the only mammals around were little shrew-like creatures.
We've had like how many, extinction events between that and this, and
there was this orange brontosaurus, man, he was great.
Not to mention, like they probably lived on Pangea.
Pangea,
like,
exactly.
So it's just like where do you put them? It's just like your continent's gone.
It doesn't matter.
Would there be any meaningful relationship to Earth as a planet at this point, right? Like
the climate's so different.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
even the makeup of the like
It'd be much
the
colder
atmosphere in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I personally have no issue with resettlement or, harboring fugitives or whatever it might be, but not fugitives. What's the word?
Like refugees.
Thank you, refugees. Thank you.
Immigrants.
A little tired, but I can't imagine here how, other than conquering, this makes any sense.
Right.
Well, and it's a different question as well. Would they have legitimate claim to Earth territory? And
No, because Earth didn't even exist. It's like all you're saying is that we have ancestors way back, like again before time, and now we want to claim that. That's a little bit off the charts.
I mean, they're also kind of a homeless species that just sort of roams, from what we can tell. We never hear of a Voth homeworld in the.
Well, that sounds like a refugee then. So
yeah.
No.
And that's another question altogether. Should humanity welcome a lost species of Earth home?
I think that Dave's question
that's awesome, and we should find a place for you because it's great to have you back. Part of our genetic lineage. Like they say, that like the genetic markers between humans and Voth are like so close.
Mm-hmm.
It's like. It's just...
But I mean, I could see that, say, constituting, why don't you take up an orbit between Earth and Mars, right?
Sure.
And we'll establish diplomatic contact. I can see Adam's point that doesn't necessarily mean, sure, like, here, have Wyoming, for instance, and like, let's just keep on moving, right? Those claims would be profoundly attenuated by the time and the distance and like the historical gap and their own cultural refutation of a link to Earth.
But the culture differences too. I mean, here's humans or whoever will dominate Earth at that point probably doesn't have a lot of links, and we'll have to do a lot of figuring out who they are and what they're about, and like it or not, there's going to be mistrust, and that breeds. So
the first human Voth war. Woo!
Like, I have no problem helping them find a planet to live on, like you said, Davan. Like, it's a good idea,
But you don't think they have any legitimate claim to Earth anymore?
No.
Okay. What about you, Dave?
There's got to be a statute of limitations on claims. Like I agree with hundreds of years for sure. Hundreds. That's a known history. But
right. Well,
what if it was like Dave said, though? Sorry, Dave, to interrupt, but like you were saying about it just being a small offshoot group. Like, what if, like, say,
then they're a group of refugees?
Yeah, exactly. But not on Earth.
If it's a small group, containable, sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So
and
I
then,
guess, for me, there's, and this is like where you get to like the science fiction end of legal precedent. What precedent would be established by the fossilized remains of their contemporaries
the hadrosaurs
from when their ancestors had left Earth?
Oh,
right. If they're like, well, we buried our folks in the backyard, that sort of means we lived there too. I guess, I mean, like, I think there's no way to legitimately claim, like, you just have to give them Earth. That's craziness. That's absolutely crazy, right? Yeah. There's an inhabitation and all the other stuff, development of a new species, whole thing. But yeah, I think there might be, in terms of respecting who they are, I think that there'd be a real interest in establishing diplomatic relations, at least, to bring an embassy or something, right? Yeah. I think that'd be a species the Federation would love to have as well, because they have crazy technology.
They do 20 million years of.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But you thinking about Star Trek though, again, I don't think they've done a really good job in bridging the gap between anything other than humanoid. But we first of all, I mean, Davan, I think you heard last week's Enterprise 8. My problem with that episode was that we still didn't see who the damn Tholians were. I want to see them, for crying out loud. And but we don't have good relationships with them. We don't have good relationships with the Shellyak. We don't have good relationships with the Horde. We don't have good relationships with anybody except humanoids, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the Horde are the best ones. I think that the Federation has relationships with. You're right, but even the Medusans and all sorts of things, right? There are certainly still very clear limitations to humanoid, like empathy and cognition and those things.
Right. Yes, and I understand it. I mean, it's hard enough for us today on Earth to like people who are like us, for crying out loud, different color skin. But can you imagine having to bridge across now? Species? A cat.
Instinctually attack.
Doctor Who. Remember that Doctor Who episode with the cars? And it's fantastic. The cat people.
Did you win the bet, Sam? Murphy says anything beyond 10 generations of lives. Well, yeah, there you go.
Ah.
Or extinction events.
Well, and
extinction events is a big one, and
sure.
continents being gone.
Yeah,
and split. See, that's the thing. See, I'm kind of the mind that Earth should probably try to accommodate any reasonable amount of them. Like, you wouldn't want to overpopulate the planet because there's probably billions and billions of Voth out there.
Mm-hmm.
But like any reasonable amount of them that want to settle on Earth, I would probably lean towards considering them citizens of Earth.
What? No, I mean, there's another human cultural principle we can put into the mix, right? The First Nations peoples are famous for asserting that any action we take should be planned with reference to the seventh generation beyond us. And so now I'm falling onto Adam's side of the point here, because if these hadrosaurs or hadrosaur humanoid relatives were departing Earth entirely because they knew basically all life that was able to support them was about to end, and 7 generations out, possibly they were just going to be out, say, past, who knows, Vulcan or something, then maybe their plan was never to return, and so any kind of claim would be forfeit. Even any tenuous claim. Since their plan was to leave the planet to its own devices, and for their 7 generation plan, it's to head out away.
It's like, peace out, you're shit out of luck. Good luck.
This place has just gotten too crazy for me.
So interesting. So we sort of beg to differ a little bit on this one. Yeah. A touch.
That's a beautifully thorny question.
Mm-hmm.
It is. All right.
I just can hear the answer. We're staking claim. No, you're not. Okay.
just
what? Pangea?
For a moment.
Go for it. All right.
Yeah.
Let's launch another probe. And why don't we get a one Bradward Boimler's opinion on this one first?
The Doctor didn't spend 7 years in the Delta Quadrant for you to question his agency. He's got rights.
Is that true?
This is a good question.
Is the Doctor a life form or just a highly advanced holographic facsimile? Yeah, this is a big one. I think this is one of like the big. And you know who's famously on the just a highly advanced holographic facsimile side is Garrett Wong. Ensign Kim. He thinks that the Doctor was always just a program. So that's interesting. Mm-hmm. So anyone want to jump in on this one?
That's why I never rose above ensign.
I think this almost breaks down into like a few different questions, or at least a couple of different questions. It's just like, well, one, obviously, what is a life form?
Mm-hmm.
2, is there a difference between a life form and such a sophisticated copy that it's basically indistinguishable?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there a difference? Like,
Is there an
what's a
essence?
life? What's a life form?
But a
Well, I
life-
guess that also jumps into what's
Right.
a life form, I guess. But
Well, so do we import a definition, or do we try and interrogate Trek in its own terms about what a life form is?
I think they do a fantastic job asking this question over and over and over again, and I always love it. Always love it.
yeah, exoprompts.
Measure a
Like,
man, measure the
Yeah.
man. You asked us to seek out new life. Well, there it is.
there it sits.
Yeah.
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 The
So-
Horta again returns as another example of a unlikely looking life form.
But it is experience what creates that. That's almost what they lean towards in Voyager, because there's a lot of Doctor holograms, like Mark IIs or whatever they're called, Mark I's. But the only one they treat like a sentient being is the Doctor. So, like, is there like if you turn a Doctor an EMH on, is there a certain time limit at which point it gains the rights of sentience?
Well, it's a good question, because I mean, in some sense, I think the Doctor defies some of Trek's earlier definitions for life. Because remember when we get the little crystals that live in the sand layer?
In home soil.
Yeah, home soil. Thank you. The bags
Good
of
episode.
mostly water.
Bags of mostly water.
Yeah.
That's great.
And they give a beautiful, succinct definition of life there, which I think we probably find in lots of biology textbooks now, which is that it engages with its energetic environment by intaking and excreting, right, in some fashion, outputting. It reproduces
Yep.
in its kind, and it has some sort of like self-organizing going on, like an embryo or that sort of thing that is happening, right? And the Doctor as a hologram, absolutely. Yeah, you make a wonderful point. But a tree still fits all of the definitions that Picard or whoever it is uses in home soil. It doesn't necessarily have self-reflexive consciousness. At least I haven't observed a tree doing any of that. Maybe it does, and they're just very quiet about it, or it takes a long time, like Tolkien says. But
should I change this to, is the Doctor a sentient life form?
I think your point about Voyager is that they're always asking, is he sentient? Because in lots of ways, he isn't a classical life form. He can't reproduce.
Yeah, he says he's not alive all the time.
Right?
Yeah, he says, how are you going to kill me? I'm not alive. Good luck with that. Like,
right, because he doesn't have a body to kill, right? So,
Yeah.
but is he a life form? And I think it comes down to, does he have a real... Is he a hypostasis? Is he an independent being that has a consciousness of its own, right?
Well, here's another way to look at it.
I'm
It's
changing
a
it. Sentient life form.
It's a dangerous question here, but if technology keeps me on or keeps the Doctor on, and once I switch that off, it doesn't exist. A tree lives, I live, a virus lives. But
sure. But
well, what does switching off mean? I mean, when we're switched off, we stay off.
Yeah, we do.
Subject my brain to sufficient anesthetics, and you inhibit consciousness, right?
Well, why it's a dangerous question? Why it's
Yeah, right. There are these two fascinating scientists. What is it? No, I've lost their friggin' names. One's a lovely British guy, Roger Penrose,
Oh yes,
and Stuart Hameroff, who propose what's called the orchestrated object reduction theory of consciousness, which posits that consciousness is essentially a field effect that operates in the brain via sets of non-local relationships, so that parts of the brain will light up, say on an MRI, that aren't physically proximate to each other, but they'll do it at the same time and somehow look like they're in a relationship to each other. But their argument is that there are these wee teeny structures called microtubules in the brain that are capable of determining the wave function of particles such that they like set a state event, which could be like saying there's a synapse firing that can be interrupted by anesthetic. So their argument ultimately, or in one interpretation of their argument, is that the brain is a transceiver for consciousness as a field. And when consciousness is inhibited in the brain, what's really being inhibited is literally that field effect which is self-reflexive in the way that we experience ourselves as like a consistent, like self-related consciousness. So could the Doctor be a potential transceiver for a field called consciousness? Just to throw another monkey wrench in the works.
Right.
Or like when you, I mean, it's interesting about because he's photonic.
Yeah.
But that's just his physical form. But we never really see him. Well, I guess sometimes he pops up on us, or does he? Do we ever see him do anything or hear from him when he's not in his physical form?
Yeah, he talks on screens all the time.
But is he standing in the sick
No.
bay in his
No,
physical
sometimes
form
he
at that
doesn't have a
time?
physical form when he's doing that.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Doctor is just in, like, he's just software somewhere.
He is
His physical
software.
body doesn't really matter.
And somebody could have programmed his personality.
Right. Now,
Somebody did.
Somebody did. Okay, so it didn't evolve. This is what it's a total program thing.
But that's what they argue in Voyager.
think
Did
that's
he
not in
evolve?
his
Like,
kind.
they left him on longer than it was ever supposed to be left on, and they argue that he did.
I remember this now.
Yeah. And so the other thing that's in here, right, is the great black and white episode. There was it Captain Proton,
with
where
the
holodeck
photonic
is-
beings.
right? It's invaded by photonic beings
Yeah.
who clearly understand themselves as life forms that reproduce in their kind and do all sorts of things, but their body may not be the same kind of photonic body as the Doctor's, I suppose.
They're funny. They're like, of course, like all life is photonic. They're like, what are you guys, like a simulation or something? 'Cause you're not photonic. Murphy
And
makes a
maybe
good
we're
point.
looking at
Here.
yeah, I think Murphy may be making a point that like it's an emergent thing. Sorry, go on, Davan.
Well, he's just saying the holodoc being able to react to things beyond its initial programming lead me to believe it's a sentient life form as it's able to react and evolve.
Well, I don't know how you can say that Data is a sentient life form and and the Doctor isn't.
That's the thing. Like because he's what positronic, is that like the artificial definition of a life form? It's
All they've done is basically create a body for Data and being able to dump that consciousness into it.
Yeah, like Data's parts are like set components. Like you can't remove Data's consciousness from his body like you can the Doctor.
Except when we see
you can remove his head
down. When we see Lal breaking down, we do see, or we have a narration of her consciousness dissolving as well, right? Or at least her bodily substrate for that consciousness. So I'm going to throw in one more ancient dude here. One of my favorite dead best friends is an Egyptian guy from Wolfville, Egypt, Lycopolis, called Plotinus. He moved to Rome in about 200, died early before that, died about 270. Anyway, he writes in the first tractate in the order 1-1 Ennead, called "What is the Living Being?" That for him, right, he talks about this union of a living principle or psyche, a soul, and a soma, a body, right? But he says that the living being, ta zoon anthropon, is actually the confecting of the two. It's not just some disembodied spirit or life principle and a lump of matter, right? Because if your finger gets cut off, and it stays that way for a while, it's not really a finger anymore. It's just a lump of what used to be a finger, right? So could we argue that it's actually the moment of contact there, as Murphy maybe made the point? It's that moment of contact. It's not just that he's software and hollow projectors, but there's something in that which has the consistency of a living, sentient consciousness.
I would argue it's still a finger. It's just not your finger anymore.
You disagree with Aristotle in the Degeneration of Animals.
Yeah,
old positions.
Me and my old boy Ari.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So My question, I guess, that I don't know if we really answered is there a difference between a sentient life form and a facsimile of a sentient life form? It's the only difference is one is biology and one is technology, I suppose, right? Like if it, as Murphy says, can evolve and go beyond its initial programming, which what does that mean? Like, is it because we have computer learning now, computers that can learn, and so like how close are we to a sentient computer?
Well, apparently a Google machine asked for a lawyer, as that guy claims.
Well, because if like learning and being able to, like, because you can have open-ended programming, I guess that's what computing, like, what do they call them? What do they call them? Evolutionary programs? Is that what they call them?
Sure. Yeah. Learning algorithms and things.
Yeah. So if that's the standard.
Here's a question. Let's just get away from Star Trek for a second, but go back to 2001.
Okay.
And Hal.
Mm-hmm. Hal, yeah.
Sure.
Was
scariest villain, one of them ever. Terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But he was turned off.
I can't do that, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
We just happened to have a Dave here, so that line worked awesome. Sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah.
Dave's not here, man.
These are the Daves I know.
Sorry,
but we derailed you hard there.
So take away the Doctor and substitute Hal. Like, same.
Well, Hal's evil is shite, too.
So? Yeah,
well, no, he's not, I guess. He's just highly rational.
I think he's just trying to
like the way Skynet is, and the way Master Mold is in the X-Men. It's just like
well, it's like fantastic.
Humans give rise to the problems, then we have to get rid of the humans, and then the problems go away.
Yeah, right. And we're never going to resolve it in the next 12 minutes. But
I mean, if I catch what you're saying here. Does the behavior of the thing, and maybe this is the Turing test, right? Does the behavior of the thing, like a consciousness,
exactly
indicate that a consciousness is there, or is it a philosophical robot / zombie?
So we like the Doctor. He does things for us. He fixes people, right? And he's got a personality and likable, blah blah blah. But then you take Hal, who had a different opinion about what humans were in that space.
But
station.
Okay, I counter with this. So is Hal so coldly rational that he can be disregarded as sentience because it just seems like even beyond Vulcan level of rationality? So it's just like it almost seems more like a computer than a life form's.
So sentience
as
is
opposed
then morality,
to
then you have to have
as opposed to
conscience?
the Doctor who does irrational things all the time.
Well. Right. I mean, and there's one way in which I can see that, like, the spontaneous production of behavior you haven't predicted could be a sign of an inward impulse that's a consciousness. But that drives me to the question I wanted to ask, which is that, for instance, I'm watching you two dudes talk, right? Do all sorts of things that give every appearance that you're conscious beings. But I don't have access to what you have, like you don't to what I have, which is privileged experience of our own inward conscious life, right? Which tells me, by the sort of Cartesian cogito ergo sum, that I'm here, but has a hard time unless I'm willing to trust that things that are shaped like me and quack like a duck and flap like a duck and, do all that stuff are ducks like me, right? Like, so I have to infer that about other human creatures. So, and I think it's the same inference. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. We could bring Moriarty into this then, because he said the very same thing. He believes he thinks, therefore he is. But can a program just be programmed to think it's alive?
Right, and certainly
does the program just think it thinks, or does it think?
Behave as a simulacrum to the convincing degree that you don't know if you're in a hologram.
That's the greatest line ever.
Murphy says this is the strangest Ducks Unlimited commercial ever.
Do 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 do. Interland, who's who?
The strangest or the best? Murphy also says one is physical, one light. Both experience and interact with their surroundings. A chair or table wouldn't interact with the environment. An environment interacts with it. Interaction.
So you're,
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. That appeals to the sort of principle of motion understanding of life, which ultimately comes, and it's the first articulation I know from Aristotle in either his De Anima or his physics. But like that's a beautiful point, right? Because plants have motion in their own way, and that they reach for the sun and they grow roots and stuff, and so do other animals, and then all sorts of things. Whereas, a chair or a rock don't necessarily seem to have the same kinds of inner impulse, right?
And I think there's levels of sentience that we don't quite respect yet in our society. Like people don't give plants and lower animals as much credit for sentience as they should. Like some don't even think they are. Like some draw sentience, the line of sentience at like humans, a couple primates, maybe dogs and dolphins.
Yeah.
But like I don't think that's right.
Hey, Davan, can we just?
I would make an argument for plants.
Come back a bit though. Like I think that I want to explore this a little further because Dave, you did a great job expanding what I was thinking. But
he does that.
The whole morality part of that being, I think, really plays into this because you guys brought up, Davan, you said Skynet.
Yeah. Skynet and HAL are basically the same thing.
Sure. So you'd want to close them down. They're going to hurt us. And it's easy.
Well, then you have an enemy, sentient or not. You have a deadly threat to your existence.
Unless you can turn them off. Right? But in this case, we like the individual. We like data. We like whatever else would come along.
Not lore so much.
No, we don't like lore. Hey, guess what happened to lore?
Yeah.
Right?
Construct out of an airlock or whatever.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
I just think that the acceptance goes as far as we like them. And yeah.
Well, in the Star Trek sense too, like the question of sentience. Well, we can take it back to the Measure of a Man again. Like Picard just turns to the guy trying to get data. What's his name? Maddox. Yeah.
Maddox, yeah.
He's just like, prove I'm sentient. And his answer to Picard is kind of shitty. He thinks he answers the question, but it's not really. He's just, he's like, we all know. Well, he basically just says, we all know you're sentient. And then, what did he say? He's like, because he says you think and you're aware of your existence and all that stuff. He's just like, Data's aware of his existence. Is he sentient? Like the doctor's obviously aware of himself.
Yeah, the question of that, of like what constitutes awareness, I think is the fundamental question, right? Because even if a plant doesn't have rational cognition or like discursive reasoning, it may still have like a self-presence that would be a kind of awareness of its own existence, right?
No, I mean,
like I'm sure a fish or a dog does, right?
Some plants try to be aggressive when you threaten them. I mean,
right?
Yeah,
absolutely. And that spirit of life, that conatus, is you see that I think in Data struggling to preserve his own existence, and in some ways I think we see the Doctor display that as well in some instances.
I just have go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I had run out of things to say. Go ahead. I was like,
okay.
Train of thought just
went. Well, I was just gonna say, I feel like we all agree that the Doctor is probably a sentient life form.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Independent of our certainty of how.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting intuition as well, right?
Or how to define that. Even well, I guess that's my sort of little follow-up question is if the Doctor is a sentient life form, then what are the other EMHs?
Yeah. Maybe larval sentience, who knows, right?
See, that's an interesting thought.
Turning them off for extended periods of time.
But we respect larval sentience.
Right? Is it ethical to leave them off if they could be sentient?
Yeah, exactly. or have them do anything unless you know there's like a certain time at which sentience begins in their existence.
Yeah.
They're in a real murky gray area
We
there.
just
I
thought
think.
Starfleet out of using holographic labor as
Ever.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we've done that here.
But I suppose
That's
we've
a
just
successful
appealed to the
show,
data
fellas.
precedent, essentially. Right?
We just
We
saved
appealed to that.
holographic lives.
Nice. Holographic lives matter.
They do. They do, because they're
If
sentient.
in fact they are.
If in fact they are sentient, they're not just a highly advanced holographic facsimile. But even then, maybe they matter.
Well,
That's the difference.
You remember Picard when the androids at the time, and whether they're sentient or was it just a workforce? I'm not sure. But took and blew up Mars.
Yeah.
And what happened? No more androids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
you make a lovely point there, because when that interviewer was interviewing him in the first episode of season 1 of Picard, she says, is it
Hashtag leave hollows on.
But
or leave them off.
She says, why did you want Starfleet to commit all of those resources to save Romulan lives? And he says, no, they're lives. Right?
Possibly the best line of the whole show.
Yeah.
That one, and even gods have favorites.
Oh, yeah.
I love
That's a pretty great line. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess leave hollows on or off, just in case. But it says, I think Picard said it best, maybe how we wrap up here, is he can't say, he wouldn't be able to say if the Doctor is sentient. He can't say if he is, but I think he would say the Doctor has as much right as he does to try to figure that out for himself.
He would say that.
Yeah. So I think that's
until Picard felt threatened, and then you just put him in a cube and let him live his life out.
Yes, again, with his intent, he was a bit of a sneak and a villain. So
man of many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Davan, before you wrap today's up, can you can we answer? I'm very curious to know what you guys think. Sam's question there: what is the best season of Star Trek: Next Generation?
Oh, I didn't see that. Where is he? Oh, there it is.
Gosh.
Sorry, Sam, I missed that question. The best season of TNG.
I'm curious to see what you guys say.
Wow.
It's not 7. It's not 1 to 3, but 3 is good.
3 starts it.
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6. I thought.
I think for me, it's actually. Oh God, I almost want to look at it now.
3 had best of both worlds. That's why I say that.
3, so did 4.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Of course.
But 5 into 6 has Chain of Command, right?
Yeah.
And season 5, episode 2 is Darmok.
It's lower.
But you can't tell the Next Generation story without the Borg, and that's why you need best.
That's true. No, that's a fair point.
I think it might be 5. Like,
5 was fantastic.
Oh wait, but 4 has brothers too, right? And family.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's 4 to 6, Sam.
The end of 3 that started best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Then go.
Oh,
and 3 does have some. The first 3 seasons do have some gems.
Yeah, but
like we've talked about one from even season 1, which is home.
I think Sam told us last week he's just getting into this. So if we're gonna
we're gonna say if you were to start from Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and go through the rest of season 4 into the beginning of season 5, like to episode 2, that would be just about a perfect season of TNG.
But there's so many good ones in 6 and 7 too.
It's true.
I'm looking at them right now.
Like there's not like
the definitive answer.
Even the finale. I mean, you got to watch.
Yes,
you got to watch Encounter at Farpoint and the
end. All right, fellas. So I'm going to shout we're going to answer this question for you. Actually,
we're
going to run the show wrong here.
Episode ideal season of TNG.
So I'm going to throw you like the 3 or 4 highlights from each of those seasons, fellas, and then we'll decide. How about that?
Yeah.
So season 4. Well, we agree it's not season 3, but season 3 does have some good stuff, like Who Watches the Watchers.
Yeah.
And The Defector, one of my favorite episodes.
That's a great episode.
Damn.
Yeah. And Yesterday's Enterprise is in season 3.
Oh, Yeah.
Okay,
What a
Sam, you got to watch yesterday's Enterprise too. That's too good.
You might just start at season 3. Actually, it's pretty
Yeah.
good because then it comes into Best of Both Worlds, and then so season 4, the highlights would be. It's funny how we got distracted here saying "good job," but like the end of Best of Both Worlds, Family, Brothers are amazing episodes.
That's 3 episodes that are just killers right off the top of that season.
Yeah, and then Data's Day I think is a really great episode.
Oh,
Which was Data's Day? What happened in that one?
Data's Day is the one where Chief O'Brien's getting married and he's talking to his like pen pal the whole time. I really like that
he's
one.
writing. Yeah.
And
In for a penny, in for a pound. How
and also,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And also The Wounded, which is a Ben
God.
Maxwell and stuff. So that's and
Write
the Drumhead
season 4 for
and
me.
the Drumhead.
4. Oh, okay, season 4. That's fine.
Yeah,
I'll let go.
I think I'm with Dave, but let's just check here real quick because I know 5's really good. We got the end of Redemption. We have like Darmok, of course, Ensign Rowe, Silicon Avatar, Unifications Part 1 and 2.
Oh God, those are fantastic.
Dang.
What's that one? Ethics, the one where Worf wants
Yep,
Riker to kill him.
that's a great one.
Cause and Effect, The First Duty. I Borg.
Oh,
The Inner Light.
Okay, Sam, start at
Inner Light.
season 3 and just watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all one good long season.
So good 5 years.
So it's actually not 6. So 6 suffers a bit of what season 7 suffers for a bit, which is I find where they sort of backed off on the seriousness a bit. Season 7 and season 6 got a little more hokey, except for season 6 does throw Chain of Command at you. Not hokey, it's still great stuff, mind you, but it's just slightly less serious. Like a more serious episode would be like Starship Mine, where that one's hilarious. That's a hilarious episode. That's the one with Hutch. Call Me Hutch.
Call Me Hutch. I remember that one.
Yeah, I would say it's 4 and 5. That's what I'm thinking.
But Sam, if you're gonna really do this,
3 to
watch Encounter at Farpoint. Skip the rest and start.
No, don't watch Encounter at Farpoint.
You have to watch.
No, you don't. It offers nothing.
Yes, it.
Oh, okay. Damn it.
There is sort of the premise of the show in there.
All right, watch it. If you could just watch the Q scenes, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably true.
The rest of Encounter at Farpoint is hard to stomach.
It's true.
Groppler Zorn.
Oh, Grapplers.
Yeah. Well, Groppler Zorn's kind of annoying.
Oh no. Gets mad about apples.
Oh my god.
He just hates
So I guess we sort of answered the question reasonably whether the Doctor is a sentient life form, but we don't have an answer for Starfleet, just what they should do with the rest of the EMHs. We got no advice for them there, I don't think. Other than Murphy's advice, keep hollows on.
You know what though?
We have
a great debate 9 or Class L probe question. It was the Worf one. Ethics.
Oh yeah.
Should
Riker kill him or not?
have taken Worf's?
Yeah.
Well, bring that one on next time you're on Debate 9.
Yeah,
Adam.
I
That is
have
a
to
really
remember
good
that.
one.
Yeah.
Right one.
Yeah.
Like it's funny how some of the more obvious questions that they ask right in episodes we often don't think to put into a Debate 9.
Oh yeah.
Love that.
All right, well I guess that's it here. We launched some good probes, fellas. Worf didn't let us destroy the probes, we didn't let Worf destroy the probes, I should say.
Nope.
So do some pitches. What's going on in Enterprise at 8 there, Adam?
Well, we're well into season 2, and actually started
Canamar.
Canamar's where we are, exactly.
I like Canamar. That's a good episode.
We've had some struggles this season with people with our rankings a little bit wavering, but now we're coming back strong midway through. I think, quite enjoying it.
Did you like Canamar?
I did. Happy to talk about it.
One of my favorite guest characters.
You know what's so interesting is when you see the series in early 2000s and how many cross pollination between Voyager, Deep Space Nine was going on at that point in time and Enterprise. There's a lot of great cast members that are flipping back and forth and guest stars and whatnot. So really good.
Oh yeah.
The big surprise for me this year was Clancy Brown.
Oh yeah,
I love that guy.
Yeah, Clancy Brown's great.
Yeah,
I would listen to that man read.
He has very lovely tapestries.
He does. What would you like to see? What would you like to hear him read?
Oh, the phone book. Anything.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
He's got a good voice.
just start talking.
Dave Puxley.
Right?
555-5555.
Remember when he was Sergeant Zim in Starship Troopers? I love that line. It was
Oh,
great.
man.
Yeah.
I love
And then he was in this series. I don't know if you guys see it. It was an HBO series called Carnival.
Oh,
Carnival.
God. He was amazing in
He
that.
was amazing in that.
One of
He
my
was also
favorite
this-
series. I wish they'd finished it.
Yeah.
He was also the star of a sci-fi show I didn't think was particularly good called Earth 2.
Oh, I enjoyed that when it was
It-
first
it-
on. I kind of went off the rails.
Yeah,
The
with
premise
ant people
great.
and things, and it was kind of
Yeah.
weird.
I really enjoyed the premise.
Yeah, the
though.
premise wasn't bad.
And he does make a great Kurgan. That's for
That's
sure.
true. That's true.
That was my first introduction to Clancy Brown, actually.
And Surtur. He's still also the voices.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Those look like eyebrows to me. It's Growl. I also listened to check out X-Rated on Tuesday. Will be Savage Land, Strange Heart, Part 1 will be the episode we'll be reviewing on Tuesday. We're getting there. We're like just over the halfway point of season 3, I think. We're about to come up on the Dark Phoenix saga. And, we have guests from who created the show, and we're going to have another guest coming up here soon during the Phoenix saga. I'm not going to drop who that is quite yet. And also listen to my co-host Andre's Graphic Histories podcast, where he does interviews with people like Jim Rugg, David Cutler, who also is a frequent guest on X-Rated, Jed McKay, Ed Brisson, even myself. If you want to find out how I almost killed Stan Lee, you should check out that episode as well. You can also check out Super Mater Brothers over there. They're probably doing something about Big Brother or Survivor or something tonight or tomorrow night. Who knows? It's most nights. Those things are on a lot. They do a lot of work.
It's the season finale of Big Brother.
Oh, it's the season finale of Big Brother apparently,
Oh,
so they're definitely all over that. So tune in for that. I know Sam will be there, won't you, Sam?
He's
Yeah,
gone.
well,
He's already there.
He's already there waiting. Trivial Debates, check out that as well. I hosted the last one. It was the all music edition. There's another one coming up like the day before Halloween. I don't know what's happening with that one. There was rumor it was going to be the second music one, but I thought it should be Halloween themed, so I think it's all up in the air.
I don't know what Dave did. He moved the dates. It used to be the last weekend of every month, and now it's the third weekend of every month, which makes it difficult to attend.
Well, it's got to be the last week of every month if it's the 30th. This month, I mean.
It's this whatever. Anyway, I missed a few. I'd like to get back in.
Oh,
you know what? It just occurred to me after all that discussion around next gen, Sam wasn't even there.
What?
He wasn't even there.
Listen,
Sam,
we're just going to have to.
we wasted 10 minutes of airtime on
But
this.
it's
We're gonna
never
have to-
wasting. It's never wasting talking about next gen ever.
That's true.
We'll just-
That's true. And it was a hard question to answer. So. And you know what? We're all one big happy family here now at the United Federation of Podcasts. More on that later. I just wanted to throw that up there to annoy Murphy. Anything else, fellas?
Oh,
It was great to be here tonight. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice to
thanks,
see you,
Adam.
Adam.
You
Nice
too,
to
Dave.
see you over there, Davan. Glad you survived the hurricane well.
Yeah, I did. I survived that and the corona.
Oh, man. You're a survivor, man.
I am.
Your houses are intact, both of you.
Well,
yeah.
the roof took a hit, and my gardens
yeah.
got mangled.
Oh, yeah.
And my greenhouse might be destroyed, but we'll
Oh
see.
no.
Oh, well, the hurricane very helpfully took a dead tree and laid it gently on the side of my roof, and then we pushed it off today. I've been meaning to cut it down, but did me a favor. Thank you, Mother Nature.
Firewood.
Indeed. Love it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I hope to be out to see you guys before Christmas. So
That'd be
Right on.
awesome.
We'll look forward to it.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. That
Right.
definitely sounds good. All right.
Well, then, without
Right.
further ado,
good night.
end transmission.
Locutors. A Trek. On screen.